All right, hope everyone's doing great. Jeff and I are sitting out here having a good time.
Oh yeah.
We're cutting up a little bit, but we're gonna get serious again. All right, so we're gonna go into a conversation about triggers for anger, right? So if you're struggling with anger, and you're here with us, which connects to the foundation of the anger management course, we want to share with you just different triggers to look out for. We're going to talk about internal triggers from things outside, external, and then later we'll go into some other videos that have to do with how do we address these. So the first one I want to share has to do with change. And then you may have noticed that I looked down, I've got my notebook here. And when I talk about change, I'm looking at change as far as an individual's schedule, their routine. So as an example, it could be where, a person goes to work and then maybe their supervisor asks them to not sit at their cubicle, but instead sit in a different location. And then that could have provoked anger because it's a change out of their control.
Okay.
Do you see that? Have you seen that when you work with different individuals as a trigger for anger?
I do, especially with older adults. We get kind of set in our ways. We don't want to kind of adapt to the new things. Computers is a big one.
That's true.
Computers, older adults don't like computers that well. So, that when you implement a new program to them, it's not something that they have this system that they've been doing for 5, 10, maybe 20 years. And then you implement this new program that, they have to do this whole learning thing all over again. So that can kind of causes some resistance and some stress, not so much.
I believe it.
Yeah. So I think it's just that fear is the biggest thing. Fear is a great cause of anger because, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what the outcome is going to be at that time. So it just causes some stress to us, and fear kind of triggers anger a lot.
Yeah. And I think they're intertwined. I was thinking, you said older adults don't like to change, and I was like, I don't like a lot of these computer changes either. Yeah, I've got my kids talking about. I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old talking about. My daughter says she wants to be on Facebook.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Slow down. And that has to do with change. Right. So I like the way that things are, and I don't want the change to take place.
Right. You have a routine, and things that upset your routine, kind of knocks you off. It makes you have to change things around, and we don't like change too much.
And I think I want to share that with it, it's this universal law that I think a lot of us don't like change. Right. We tend to like our routines because we get used to them, and maybe we get good at them. We excel. So it's like, what? I'm really good at whenever MySpace was around, right? I'm good at this MySpace page, creating it, and all of a sudden a new Facebook one comes up. Or the guy that goes to work and he's sitting in his cubicle and he likes it. He's like, what? I like these walls. I like the way it is. It's quiet right here. And then my supervisor comes up, acting a fool, talking about go sit somewhere new. I don't like that change. It's out of my control.
Yeah. I think you have to look at it positively. The more you learn stuff, the better your performance is. After you do something for a long time and we get complacent with it, and like you said, we get good at it, but it kind of plateaus after a while. But when you introduce something new to it, you have a new skill that you can kind of add to that performance that you do. So not only can you do one thing, you can do two things. Yeah. And that's what people have a lot of times. They don't want to learn these new things, but it's for their benefit. So it makes you more, flexible, helps you with your skill and helps you be more comfortable with your job. So performance, learning new things is directly related to your performance, and performance is not so much directly related to how well you learn something.
Yeah. So with this trigger right here so far, we're getting into acknowledging change. Acknowledging that change can be a trigger, and it can have its own definition for you, right? So we talked about older adults, we talk about a parent, technology, your work setting. All of these factors highlight change. So as you live your life and you're working on this journey to heal and to recover from anger, look at how does change play with that, and then maybe ask yourself a question: am I dealing with change in an appropriate, healthy manner, or am I dealing with change in a manner that's slowing me down, hurting my relationships, hurting me?
Right. Yeah. Just by every facet of our life, you have to be an agent for change. There's always something that's causing us to change. When you get a new job, you change to a degree. When you get a new position, you change to a degree. When you get married, you have kids, all these things that are thrown at us through life causes us to change. So you have to be an agent of change. And we're not going to be ready for everything. We're not going to be prepared for everything, but you have to be willing to learn, how can I adapt and adjust to this new situation that I am so that the stress level is low.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
if you go into it with the open mind that, hey, what can I take from this? That doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a master at whatever it is. But if you go into it with the open mind, you'll pick up something that will help you along the way.
The next one that we had on here had to do with negative thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Negative thoughts, self-defeating thoughts, like I can't do it,
Right.
I'm not worthy,
Mm-hmm.
I feel worthless, I don't feel that I'm important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, again, I know we're talking about anger, but I think a lot of us do struggle with that to some degree. Maybe we don't utilize a very heavy statement like
Mm-hmm.
I'm worthless, but we may use a lesser statement like I don't think I can do this.
Right.
And overall, these type of thoughts, these negative thoughts, these bad thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
they're triggers for anger. Tell me, from your end, what do you see? What do you see in negative thoughts and bad thoughts as far as a trigger for anger?
Yeah, I think that that plays a major role in how well we adapt or how well we manage anger. If you have those negative thoughts there, then it kind of helps you lose motivation as to wanting to do those certain things or work through those processes because you already have that negative outcome in your head that you created and you haven't even done the activity yet. So if you go into the activity with a positive kind of mentality, you may find something along the way that can help you pick up momentum.
Yeah.
As far as hey, I did that right, so let me go to the next step. Or that was kind of easy. I can do the next step.
Yep.
And those are the things that you can kind of use to kind of combat those negative thoughts that you had initially. Those negative thoughts that you had. Hey, I picked that up pretty quickly. That's something that you can put out that I can't do it. That overcomes that. I don't know if I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You just did it.
Being your own advocate. Yeah.
So I think that's one way you can kind of look at it. If you just kind of have that positive kind of attitude going into it, good or bad. Whatever the outcome is, at least you had a positive attitude going into it and you was open-minded to it. But if you're already closed-minded, you're not going to look for a way to kind of navigate through that process. If you look for something that make you angry, you will find something that make you angry.
I'm sitting here learning so much from Jeff. I appreciate that, man. With you gave a good point, and for some reason my brain was thinking of like a double trigger, which may not make sense. But it's where you have a bad thought, and let's say you're at work, right? And you have a bad thought, like I don't think I could present in front of my coworkers,
right?
And they're gonna think I'm stupid. They're gonna think that I can't do it. They're gonna think I'm a fraud, that I shouldn't be here. That thought itself can be like a secondary trigger to either physiological or an emotional reaction that goes back maybe in your upbringing. So what I mean by that is where you're having these negative thoughts, and the negative thought can then channel a reaction such as your fist balling up or your jaws clenching, and that's where we want to keep an eye on it as far as what does my negative thought do to me physically.
Got you.
And I think often that's not something that people conversate about.
And I think those are warning signs. Your body will tell you when you're kind of getting angry or when you're getting upset. You start sweating, you get hot around the collar, those sort of things. So I think those are all warning signs to anger that maybe I'm in an uncomfortable kind of situation. And then you can make a decision about going forward or whether I need to kind of step away from this situation until I can kind of get my emotions under control.
Yeah. The next one that I have is carrying unresolved issues. And with that, it's, an example here that I wrote down. Let's say yesterday you left work, and maybe your project at work got rejected. So you're still carrying that the next day. Or it could be deeper. It could be something that was unresolved when you were a child, like school bullying. Okay. Right? You were treated in an unfair manner that even as an adult, you continue to react to situations as you had done then.
That everything is the same. That the way it was then is the way it is now, kind of mentality. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, that happens a lot. We learn to expect a certain type of response from a certain behavior, but all people aren't the same.
Correct.
All situations aren't the same. So the reaction you got in your childhood may not be the reaction that you get in your adulthood. You know, and even if it is the same, you have an opportunity to kind of say, hey, this is something that I want to be involved in or subject myself to, or whether I want to kind of avoid these things. If that's a trigger for you, then, you know, that's something that you want to avoid because you don't manage or you don't handle that type of situation well. And it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, this is a trigger for me. Let me stay away from this. Let me stay away from these type of people. Let me stay away from this type of situations, those sort of things, so that my anger isn't provoked.
Yeah.
And that's just part of learning, you know, learning who you are as a person, learning your emotions, and, you know, you'll be able to, you know, have a happier life.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, controlling your emotions more. Maybe that's avoiding, but, you know.
Yeah, I think it hits there, but I mean, you know, you're highlighting it 100% on point.
Yeah. I think, though, at the end of the day, you have to identify that trigger, you know, and understand whether you can handle that situation or you're not. So if it's something that you can't handle, then I would say, yes, avoid that. But if it's something that you can identify what that trigger is and probably have work on it, process it, maybe it's that coworker that you don't get along with, maybe you can have a conversation with that coworker or that supervisor so that you can work out, you know, what's kind of causing the tension in the workplace. You know, I think that's a positive. But if it's something that you can't handle or something that's not going to change, then that's something that you probably need to avoid.
Yeah. With all of these, and I'll add one more before we close up. You know, Jeff shared something very important. It's the learning process. You know, when we're trying to manage anger, just like we're working in any other area of life, it's a learning journey. You know, you're learning as you go. You're trying to figure out, why do I do what I do? Why do I react the way that I react? And then you're kind to yourself. You know, you're not beating yourself up for a bad reaction because, I mean, heck, if you beat yourself up, it's going to be even harder to get back up. Right. So instead, you're kind to yourself. So as you're developing, it's a little bit more feasible. You know, it's a little bit easier as you go forward. The last point, or trigger, that I want to look at, and again, you know, Jeff and I are mentioning core triggers, but there could be many more triggers. You know, there could be triggers that are micro, macro, but we're mentioning the core ones that interconnect with a lot of those. And this one has to do with perception. So just perceiving situations, being in a certain way when maybe they're not that way. It could be that, I like to use this one for some reason. You know, you and I are walking down the street, and then someone gives us a mean mug. You know, they look at us in a certain way, and, you know, we jump our chest up, and we get upset, and our jaws clench, our fists get upset, and then you're like, Juan, calm down, right? So that would be where, you know, I'm perceiving something, I'm interpreting what's taking place, and it could lead to a reaction that is interconnected with anger, right? It's got this relationship with anger, and it's taking me in the wrong direction.
Right, and your response is appropriate. That's what the brain does. You know, it has those mirror neurons. You know, if I yawn, and probably in 2 minutes you'll be yawning too, because your brain just kind of gears up for what it sees. So when you see someone that's angry and you're walking down the street, then your brain automatically activate that part of the brain that helps you get angry or help you get defensive. So that is a normal response, but you just have to recognize that, hey, my face is clenched, you know, my face is frowned up, and you can change your response from that. You know, even though someone else is doing, their situation is not your situation, you know, so don't take that personal. That may be just how they are. They may walk around angry, but that don't necessarily mean that they have to influence your emotions and your reaction to things. So just be conscious of that. It is a natural response, you know, for the brain to kind of do that, but you can retrain the brain to have a different response. So when you see someone that has that angry face, just, how's your day today? You know, that kind of help change the mood for you, you know, psychologically, so that you're not kind of gearing up for an anger episode. You know, it distracts your brain from what it's seeing to something more positive.
Yep. I know earlier I said it'd be the last ones, right? But there are some core ones, and I think you're going to agree with me. I didn't get to mention these, and I think these should, in my opinion, maybe you agree with me. These should require some sort of further engagement with a professional. Substance abuse, trauma, right? Substance abuse, addiction, trauma, those areas. So if you're struggling with, let's say, alcohol abuse, if you have a traumatic history, post-traumatic stress disorder, a history of sexual abuse, you know, something in that domain, those are triggers, right? They're interconnected with that pool of being a trigger, But I do think that outside of the conversation that we're having here together, an individual, that fits into that category would benefit. And I think, they can have a very healthy, positive journey if they work with someone who fit that capacity, that professional capacity.
Yeah. I think there are certainly some things that are outside of our control as individuals, and you do need some professional assistance. It's not everything that you can do on your own. And as much as strong as we think we are and as knowledgeable as we think we are, there's just some things that we can't do on our own, that we need a support system, that we need some people that can kind of hold us accountable, that can make sure that we're on the right tracks. Because what happens when we kind of veer off to our own thoughts, we start to think that irrational things are rational things.
Yeah.
So it's important to have people that kind of keep us grounded, keep us centered, so that what we're doing is working, and what we're doing is not kind of deviating from us, it's making us isolate ourselves from everyone else, where everyone else is wrong and I'm the only one that's right.
Yeah. Very. I mean, that's a great point. It was so good I should have wrote it down. No, it was good, man. I hope that you guys enjoyed having a conversation with Jeff and I. I hope that your journey, of healing, recovering, understanding, with understanding anger, understanding yourself, is it's just moving forward, baby steps. Babies crawl first, right? Then they fall some, and then they start walking. Both Jeff and I've got young kids. Yeah. So we saw those phases.
Yeah. It's all part of the process. Soon, you'll be walking and you'll forget all about those fallen days.
All right. Take care.
You too.